Hey Scrappers, Tom here from iScrap, and what we want to do now is a recap of the 2022 copper and brass markets, as well as a preview for 2023. If you're looking to read our full recap, just click below in the descriptions. You can check it out, and we would love to see your comments and kind of hear what you're thinking going into 2023. So, what went on with copper this year? Because it really has been one of the biggest roller coasters for everyday metals. You know, I've used the phrase for years, the ABCs of scrap: aluminum, brass, copper, and steel. And copper has really been the bellwether for many different areas. So let's talk about copper in 2022 after following up with 2021 all-time record prices. You know, 2022, we started pretty good. Copper prices were trading, as you can see on the chart, copper prices were still trading above $4 per pound, and that lasted all the way until June 2022. So for the first 5 to 6 months of 2022, we saw copper prices trading anywhere as low as $4.20 and as high as $4.75, and let's see, 90 cents almost. So seeing those prices really going high, we're really optimistic for the rest of the year, especially in March when we saw that Ukrainian conflict happening. We saw prices getting near the $5 mark again, only to slow slightly. So what happened in June? In June, we started to see big restrictions from the Federal Reserve. What does that mean? They started increasing the interest rates. By increasing the interest rates, because you can see on the chart that, you know, from June 1st, copper traded around $4.50 and by July 15th, it was down to $3.22. So think about that. June 1st, around $4.50. July 15th, 6 weeks later, we saw the prices drop $1.40 per pound. What does that mean? The Federal Reserve increased interest rates. That affects companies that are borrowing money. That also cheapens the US dollar, cheapens commodity prices, and we really were scared of getting ready to see a bit of a recessionary pullback. Now, over the next few months, July, August, September, October, November, the Federal Reserve continued to add interest hikes. So that hurt the markets, but the dollar remained strong even with the Ukrainian conflict. As we've said in other videos, they started to look at supply and demand and where we were going from there. And a lot of consumers the first half of this year finally got their products that they ordered or wanted in 2021. And once we started to see some of the consumer reports coming out in May and June, that's when we started to see consumer demand going down, recessionary fears kicking in, interest rates going up on things like mortgages and car loans, and that was one of the big catalysts that started the decreasing of the markets. So, you know, bare bright copper, throughout the year we averaged $3.65, but they peaked back in that June time period, and then we saw a huge decrease. So at the end of the year, our bare bright prices went, and they were probably in the second half of the year, only $3.20, $3 per pound, sometimes even less in rural areas. So those prices were heavily affected by the decreasing and the slowdown in the second half of the year, as well as fuel costs, interest rates, and consumer demand. Now, other materials, yellow brass, for instance, averaged throughout the year about $2 a pound. But it's a little bit of a catch-22 because that's an average for the year. First half of the year, it averaged $2.25. Second half of the year, it averaged $1.75 for yellow brass. So obviously, yellow brass has zinc and copper inside, so we're talking about brass inside of the copper category, but that's one of the things that we saw happening. A lot of people comment that they're saving their copper, they're saving their brass, they're waiting for it to hit $4 or $5 a pound again. So what do we think is going to happen going into 2023? First quarter of 2023, I expect to be very similar to the fourth quarter of 2022. Copper prices trading in the $3.60 to $3.90 range. Second half of 2023 and maybe the second quarter, I do start to expect an increase in copper prices. What does that mean? Where are they going to go? Electrification, electric vehicles, solar, all of these things are going to need more copper. But if you don't have as much consumer demand, as much building, as much commercial building, as much infrastructure going into place, a lot of people have pointed to the Congress, their infrastructure bill, that's not going to heavily affect the copper prices. You're going to need a worldwide demand of copper for those prices to be able to increase, and that means developing countries such as India, areas in Africa, South America, they're going to have to really be increasing their infrastructure. We don't see major things like that happening, even through the Chinese's Belt and Road initiatives where they're investing in other countries. We still don't see a massive demand for copper scrap like we may have saw in 2021, even though those demands were more artificial because of the entire stimulus, US dollar, and just worldwide disruption from COVID. So 2023, first quarter, kind of what we're going to see average throughout the fourth quarter of 2022. But overall, I think that we're going to see a very steady and strong demand for copper. Do I see a huge increase happening? I don't, based on what we've read so far, but here's what I know. News changes, events happen, and material increased prices could happen really overnight, where we saw price swings this year anywhere from flat to up 25 cents and down 25 cents in one-day trading periods. And these are things that should be noticed, talked about, and certainly be looked at by looking at charts, historical prices, and by going to the iScrapApp.com, either on your phone through the app or the mobile website, you'll be able to start to follow these prices in a much better way. Any other questions or comments about the copper prices, let us know. Until next year, scrappers, I'll scrap you later. Thanks for checking out this scrap video. For more exclusive scrap video content, please become a YouTube member of our channel today. Thank you, and I'll scrap you later.